In a heart-stopping twist, another witness emerged. A local woman came forward, claiming she had seen Hobbs with the boys shortly before their disappearance. She had remained silent, terrified of the backlash. But now, courage surged within her to speak the truth. The noose around Hobbs tightened. Yet, as investigators delved deeper, they unearthed a shocking revelation buried beneath layers of neglect. Hobbs had a violent history, including potential ties to other unsolved crimes in the area. The gray shadows of doubt deepened. Were the West Memphis three victims of a dark conspiracy to cover up the truth? Just when it seemed the case was unraveling, an unexpected turn of events transpired. As public interest peaked, several former detectives associated with the case recanted their earlier statements, admitting to misconduct and suggesting there were leads they had ignored in their zealous pursuit of the three teenagers. This left the town in disarray. Could it be that everyone had been looking in the wrong direction all along? Imagine this: the small town of West Memphis was rocked by the chilling notion that a sinister group could be lurking in the shadows, manipulating events from the darkness. While many were skeptical of Hobbs' claims, the possibility of a hidden cult gained a terrifying grip on the community's imagination. And beknownst to Hobbs, investigators quickly turned their focus away from him, landing on a web of rumors that connected several locals to bizarre gatherings in the woods. They learned of a group that had been known to engage in strange rituals under the cover of night, satanic in nature, and allegedly tied to an older generation who had lived in fear of being judged by their strict environment. As detectives delved deeper, a startling revelation emerged. Hobbs wasn't the only one with a shadowy past. A former resident, a man named Joe, had been seen frequenting those very woods. Joe had a history of violence and an obsession with the arcane, drawing more attention each day. Could he indeed be involved, or had the town become so desperate for answers that it was falling blind to the truth? Meanwhile, social media exploded with speculation. People shared stories of cult gatherings, mysterious symbols etched into trees, and a dark history steeped in blood and sacrifice. Each post fueled anxieties, creating a frenzy. The hashtag #who really killed the boys trended nationwide as national media descended on West Memphis. Just when it seemed the town was spiraling into chaos, another twist shook the foundation of this grim tale. A member of Joe's old circle came forward, anxious and shaky. This person revealed that Joe had spoken about the boys, boasting in a drunken stupor about their disappearance years ago. His nonchalance and eerie laughter raised red flags among neighbors, further deepening the suspicions. The detectives rushed to bring Joe in for questioning. In a dimly lit room, under the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, he squirmed as he faced the barrage of questions. His denials were frantic but unconvincing. It became clear he held more than just secrets about that fateful day. He had lived outside the spotlight and seen, perhaps even unnoticed, all these years. But then the unexpected happened. Joe confessed to knowing more than he let on, mumbling about a sacrifice tied to an ancient belief rooted in the very fabric of the town. As he spoke, his eyes revealed terror and exhilaration, a man caught in a moral web. Those boys, he gasped, they were chosen. The detectives were stunned. Could it be true? Had they captured a witness to something far more horrific than they could have ever imagined? But Joe's fear soon morphed into defiance as he backtracked, claiming he was merely trying to stir up trouble. The cops could see through his facade, but would there be enough time to determine the truth before it slipped away? As they wrestled with Joe's contradictory accounts, a further breakthrough came. A photograph surfaced from the depths of an old archive, showcasing a gathering from years prior. The image flickered with unsettling energy, revealing faces marked with inexplicable symbols, standing within the very woods where the boys were found. A flash of recognition sent chills down the spine. One of those faces belonged to a known crime associate of Hobbs. Simultaneously, Forensic investigations revealed traces of unknown DNA at the crime scene. This didn't match any of the West Memphis 3 hubs of a newfound subjects. Shockwaves reverberated as investigators realized this DNA belonged to another man, a man long thought to have vanished from existence years before the murders. Could he have returned to complete and finished business? The detectives were racing against time. Who was this mysterious figure? And could he be the real killer hiding in plain sight? But as they chased these threads, another revelation emerged that shook everything to its core. A local historian specializing in West Memphis' dark past disclosed an unsettling truth: there had been a series of unexplained disappearances of children in the late 80s and early 90s, all surrounding rumored cult activity. Records had gone missing, but some survivors whispered rumors, tales of sacrifice and dark pacts. Could the boys' murders be just one gruesome chapter in a much larger story? A horrifying narrative woven into the fabric of West Memphis? The detectives were left reeling. The more twists unraveled, the further away the truth seemed, concealed by a fog of silence and fear. As the investigations amplified, the residents grew restless. Who could they trust? Every old rumor, every ignored whisper seemed to bear truth now. In the midst of this chaos, just when it seemed a break was imminent, Joe's story took another turn. In a fit of anger during interrogation, he shouted something cryptic: "You think you found the truth, but sometimes the key is buried deeper than you think." What did he mean? Pushing to the brink, the detectives redoubled their efforts to figure out what the key could be. He had alluded to something hidden, a dark secret possibly tied to the cult and perhaps to Hobbs. That night, in a desperate bid for answers, investigators returned to the wooded area and retraced the steps of the boys one last time. As they pushed deeper, tension hung heavy in the air. Each rustle sounded ominous. But when they stumbled upon a clearing marked with eerie symbols, their flashlights landed on something startling: an unmarked grave. Grappling with horror and urgency, they knew they might be on the verge of uncovering the case's darkest secret. This was a defining moment. Could this discovery change everything they thought they knew about the murders? Picture this: flashlights flickering in the darkness as detectives gathered around the grave. With each scoop of dirt, anxiety mounted, a mix of fear and anticipation coursing through their veins. What secrets would be revealed? As they excavated further, the ground yielded its horrifying treasure: a small, weathered box. With shaky hands, detectives pried it open, revealing a collection of unsettling artifacts, personal belongings belonging to the missing boys. Notably, there were fragments of t-shirts and toys, items that connected the past to this gruesome present. But one item stood out: a blood-stained bracelet inscribed with the name Michael. The realization clutched at their hearts: it belonged to Michael Moore, one of the murdered boys. The air thickened as the implications sunk in. This grave wasn't a mere hiding spot. It was a shrine, a place of darkness that hinted at a deeper involvement of local figures, potentially an underground network thriving in the shadows. But there was no time for tears or reflection. They needed answers, and fast. The emerging evidence hinted at a potential conspiracy, pointing fingers at people who had believed to be beyond suspicion. As the detectives raced back to the station, they were determined to investigate every individual connected to the case. Then came another horrifying twist. As they plowed through Joe's past, one of his former friends stepped forward anonymously, shaking with fear. "It was never just a joke," he said, trembling. "Joe believed there was power in sacrifice. He talked about it constantly." At this point, the detectives pieced together the narrative surrounding this so-called cult. More than idle chatter, it seemed that some locals had been dabbling in arc rituals, potentially offering the boys as sacrifices in a misguided belief system. The theory spun like a whirlwind. But was there a direct link to the murders? Meanwhile, the name Terry Hobbs resurfaced again, now more sinister than ever. Joe's friend revealed that Hobbs had been seen on multiple occasions meeting with Joe in the weeks leading up to the boy's disappearance. A troubling picture began to form. Could Hobbs have been part of a larger scheme, manipulating events from behind the scenes? As dissected testimonies flowed in, an even more shocking revelation emerged. Terry Hobbs had a troubled relationship with his stepson. There had been allegations of violence and abuse, rumors that had been silenced, swept under the rug like dust. Had anger and resentment festered, pushing him toward an unspeakable act? Just when it seemed they were closing in, a significant breakthrough arrived: DNA analysis on the blood found on the bracelet. The results were shocking, revealing it didn't match any of the West Memphis three or Job, instead belonged to an unknown individual previously connected to Hobbs. The detectives were left reeling. Who was this man, and what did he have to do with Hobbs? With each passing moment, time became their enemy. They had to find the link before it slipped away like sand through their fingers. As they mounted pressure on Hobbs, desperate for answers, he began to crack. Under the strain of an intense interrogation, he offered a chilling admission: "You don't know what I had to do to protect my family." Crimson flags flashed in the detectives' minds. What family? And protect from what? Was it guilt or fear that drove him to speak? In a desperate effort to find the truth during Hobbs' breakdown, detectives pressed harder. Who were you protecting? What did you really know about that night? Just when he seemed poised to reveal everything, his bravado crumbled. He clammed up, refusing to say anything more. But his expression told a different story. Fear gripped him, and guilt radiated from his every pore. The atmosphere thickened with suspense as investigators regrouped. They wondered how deep the cover-up ran, if there were others involved, lurking in the shadows, concealing their roles in this nightmarish saga. Then, in a shocking turn of events, an anonymous tip came through, revealing that Hobbs had not been acting alone. The caller mentioned a hidden video recording that captured a gathering, a sacrifice that several locals attended, telling a story that went beyond mere accusation. Fueled by adrenaline, investigators tracked down the source of the tip. They uncovered a lost tape created in secret, showcasing a ritualistic meeting where various individuals, some even prominent in the community, gathered for some kind of dark ceremony. As the clues began to align, it became impossible to ignore the magnitude of the situation. The town's body of innocence was peeling away, exposing a sinister underbelly that had thrived unchallenged for years.